for me, my Kundalini Yoga practice is like my office. It's like the space where I go into, and there I receive my assignments from my higher self, or call it as you wish. And from there on, I know which task to do today or on which project to focus. So the projects that I'm on are, I have a mentorship for women that want to make a total transformation. I have short, intense mentorships. I teach, of course, twice a week. I'm joining the sadhana of Kundalini Yoga Club that I really, really enjoy.
Hello, good afternoon from my side, but good day, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. It's Anders again from the Kundalini Awakening podcast, from Karma to Dharma. And today I found somebody who's not too long on my radar, but somehow her energy really captivated me because we have this Dutch online Aquarian sadhana group where we online do 2.5 hours of yoga every day in the morning, and she just popped in and she started to radiate, and she went on Instagram and she said, wow, how nice to be part of this community. And I was looking at her radiance and I just thought, that's a story, this radiant story I would like to capture. And today I have the pleasure of having her in our podcast. Thank you, Agnieszka, for being here.
Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I feel radiant and shiny. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you. Yeah, and inviting me. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Let's spread some light. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Before we start, you're listening to the podcast, and I always inspire people. What do people do after yoga? What do you drink, or what's your ritual that you do after yoga in the morning?
So I must be, of course, very honest. I am a big fan of matcha with oat milk. And I start with that after I have drank my alkaline water with lemon, 3 glasses, and then I put some chai, some matcha on fire, and I drink that before I do my sadhana. So I'm a bit rebellious in that. I am also not the standard yogini, but it helps me with my practice because I am a little bit more awake in my body. I help my body a little bit more to stay present with everything that I activate during the practice through the breath and through the movement. So I drink before I do my sadhana already, something that activates me. And the water with the lemon, of course. Yeah.
Great. Well, you're not the only one. I actually do alkaline water too. I do it with before the practice of japji and everything. I take in filtered water with apple vinegar, the live one, and I put in there. I mix it with turmeric and pepper. So that's my cleansing formula for the morning, and it activates me too. So. Thank you for sharing. Matcha with oat milk. Okay. My daughter loves matcha and oat milk, by the way. So I think that she loves that. I know that combination. Thank you. Hey, I want to ask you first, where are you now?
I am now like literally on the physical plane. I'm in Portugal in beautiful Algarve, in my studio, in my home. Yeah. And I'm also really in the now, like present in myself. Let's not forget that. Yes.
And what does now mean for you in terms of life? How does your life look like? I know you're a teacher because you're teaching at the classes, or you're sharing the classes in the daily sadhana. So how does your life look like, Agnieszka?
How my life looks like. So at this moment, my life looks, I'm doing a lot of different projects, but in essence, they are all about coming home to yourself. So my life looks like I work a lot, but it doesn't feel like work because it's all coming from inspired action. And I also always told I had a business coach, and I told him, like, for me, my Kundalini Yoga practice is like my office. It's like the space where I go into, and there I receive my assignments from my higher self, or call it as you wish. And from there on, I know which task to do today or on which project to focus. So the projects that I'm on are, I have a mentorship for women that want to make a total transformation. I have short, intense mentorships. I teach, of course, twice a week. I'm joining the sadhana of Kundalini Yoga Club that I really, really enjoy. And I'm also a graphic designer, and I also work with alkaline water. So did I forget anything? Because I have a feeling that I forgot something.
The Garden of Love, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the Garden of Love is something I received during a meditation as well. And now I feel that I unplugged my website past year, and I'm plugging it in now again, because I'm going to offer all my projects there, and they are all coming from a place of love. My spiritual name is also Prit Simran, that means divine love, through a continuous state of meditation. So everything that I offer is coming from that place. So the Garden of Love is where you will find all these projects. Thank you for mentioning that and asking that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been quite a journey, I guess, before to have the creativity to deliver all these courses, mostly attuned towards women, right?
Many of them, yes. And I noticed that when men come to me, they come to me because they have everybody comes through intuition to me, or they have experienced me already in my classes or anywhere else, and they just trust me. But when men come to me, they come to me because they want to connect more to their heart. And that's, in a sense, the feminine energy. It's about embracing everything. That's the heart chakra, right? It's like about embracing everything. So when men come to me, they come for that, or connect more to their emotions. But I focus mainly on the feminine side of consciousness. It doesn't mean that we don't need the masculine side of consciousness. Yeah.
Yes, in the Kundalini, we talk about the Ida and the Pingala, right? The masculine and the feminine energy. And you're there to help this feminine energy flow more freely, which could be
Yes.
in men and women.
Yes, can be in man and woman, absolutely. When you zoom out and look on consciousness, in the end, masculine and feminine even doesn't exist. You can take these words away, and you can just say active, passive, magnetic or electric. And that's very liberating when you start to detach from the biological aspect of feminine and masculine, because that's it in the end. It's our body that is feminine or masculine. But when you zoom out, you go into consciousness, it are energies with different qualities in the end. Yeah.
That's very interesting. It's the first time I hear this. So if I understand you well, by inviting to talk about energies like magnetic and electric would probably become more the active energy, and the magnetic more the passive energy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it's passive, but it's not in a passive like on active. It's more. I like how Richard Root from Jinkies describes the feminine, and he says 1 + 1 is 3. So it's something we cannot understand through the mind. Our mind understands passive as a non-action, but when you step into the feminine energy, it's an experience. It's an eternal flowing, I wouldn't say eternal, but infinite flowing of energy. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but we can dive deeper into this.
Well, I find it very um, special to hear this perspective, because I've met many, many, many teachers, and you're the first to grasp it that way. And I resonate to that from a point of more unity, because passiveness means it's still a unity concept. It's not a dual concept of energy. It's just a certain passive state of energy. Because I understand if you say magnetic, there's definitely energy around. It's just more passive, looks like passive, but it's not. When you describe masculine and feminine, you actually touching into a more dual concept of energy, and our mind sees us as duality, right? Man and women, masculine and female. Should the men rule, or the women rule? So the first time that I hear from somebody um, using a more united concept of describing the energies, I guess.
Yeah,
That okay. You might not understand what we're talking about, but no worries. Let's talk about this energy.
we can
Uh,
explain.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if the conversation goes there, but let's go a bit back. So you're
All right.
now in Portugal. I know you didn't start your life in Portugal, right? Could you briefly tell us like your journey in on the physical plane?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's when yogis are speaking, or people on the spiritual path, right? We have to mention that, like, what happens in this 3D reality. Yeah, so my journey started in Poland, where I was born, and then life took my mother to the Netherlands because she fell in love with a Belgian man that lived in the Netherlands. And I grew up there. I did my studies, I did my jobs, my company, and yeah, I felt the pull to go out of the Netherlands. So I sold my house. It was a very courageous step, and many people do it on this path. I know I'm not special in that, but then it felt really like mind blowing. I sold.
Unrooting, even unrooting. So like it's like unrooting a tree, right? When you
Yeah,
sell your house.
yeah. I like how you describe it, because what I did was really on routing, because I bought a camper, a very nice, comfortable one. Um, but yeah, your roots are then floating. I was traveling through Europe in different places, but yeah, it's like traveling with floating roots, So you feel that at a certain moment, but I needed that because I felt that there's something else for me. And if I would stay in the life where I was, I couldn't make the change. I had to. Something, it was even not mental. It was just like I had to go. So it was very strong. It was a calling. And Kundalini Yoga has everything to do with that as well.
Wait.
Yeah.
Don't hop too far.
Okay.
You made that decision, and it was a very serious decision to make.
Yeah.
And let's just imagine in the mind of our users, I mean listeners. Maybe many have this feeling. How was that process for you
Mm.
to process the pros and the cons and your heart, your mind? Can you just maybe share a bit more about that process?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. It's not a process that happens in one day or 1 week. It's a process for me that took a couple of years. I would say 4 or 5 years in the end. It starts with small steps, because I believe that consciousness works with us in small steps, so we can handle that big change. And for me, it was um, having a burnout in 2012. And so when I say 2012, and I left 2018, I left the Netherlands, so 6 years later. Yeah, so the burnout, I lost my personality completely. I didn't know who I was. So it was an ego death in the most extreme way that I ever have experienced. And that was my wake up call. That was my wake up call. I had to find out who I am, what I truly enjoy in life. So this is what I did. I started to do the things that I like, be with people that I like. This is really something that I can recommend anyone to start doing that, because this is the only way to reconnect with our purpose, who we truly are. So yeah, then you go on a journey, and that journey takes like a couple of years. You start to explore and experiment. For me, that was yoga, going to meeting people that came on my path that were helping me for free to connect to my heart, like the Sufi community in south of Spain. I have been there a lot. I could stay for free there, and they were just helping me to get through my fragmentation, I can say, of lost soul parts, you know. And in the beginning I thought, like, am I schizophrenic or what, you know, like, but no. And then they say, no, you are not schizophrenic, you have just a lost connection to parts of your soul, and you are bringing that back. You are bringing that back, you know. So it's really like, again, the heart energy, bringing it all to the center. So there was I was going to places, meeting people, being on a healing journey. Also, plant medicine came on my path, and it was like every time I was meeting the right people and going to the right places, and many things were offered for free or for very low money. And yeah, it was just an unfolding of things. And I think that from my burnout on, I became receptive to the guidance that was on my path. And then when I was going a lot to Spain, I felt like I want to go to Spain. But to keep the story short, I was with my partner, with my ex-partner. We had really a beautiful, deep relationship. And we decided to go together into another. So yeah, I will start again. So Spain was something I really wanted, and to go to live there. And he said, why go to a place where you didn't experience daily life? Why not just travel first and look for our place? That was the idea. So yeah, that took me a while to get there, and there was a certain moment that it clicked with me. Like, yes, I think it's right. It's the right way. So yeah, it was really a process at the end of deep detachment from aspects of my personality, like being proud that I bought a house when I was 28. Fears like losing all my friends, never meet friends again, fear of never being able to earn money again, fear of losing, actually. And I took time for that. So 2 or 3 months I was sitting with that fear, so I could understand that the fear was just a fear. And that's really powerful also for the listeners. Like, it's really important that if you feel fear, if you have a dream on one side and you have a fear on the other side, they are both important. But when you sit with the fear and you accept the fear and you take time for it to understand it, how it feels in your body, it starts to dissolve through consciousness. When you have practices that you can do, like Kundalini Yoga, it's a very powerful practice to stay with the fear. And then naturally you will feel if something is truly aligned with you or not. And in my case, there was a very clear, I remember that I was standing under the shower, and I was still in this process of letting go of my house. And there was a moment that I was thinking where I have to get the money from. I also wanted to do Kundalini Yoga training. And yeah, and suddenly I looked down at my feet. So imagine standing under the shower, water is coming over you. You are really like, all your energy is like there, like how I really want it, and how, and then suddenly something happens. You get this clarity moment. I looked down at my feet, I had a bath, and I was like, I'm standing on a gold mine. I'm going to sell my house. It was like instant. The moment was there. And it went very fast. The market was super high in Amsterdam. I didn't know that. So I sold it for a good price. And yeah, it gave me time. I think that being patient is really important, to give yourself the time for the process. And when the time is there, you will feel this clarity and you will do what you have to do, and be receptive for all the signs on your path. It's really important. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
No,
long.
that's, I think a lot of listeners might relate to having a dream which is out of your comfort zone, and you have established a life in this 3D reality, or sometimes I call it a rat race. Um, yeah, that's beautiful, and I recognize myself there too. It's so uh, uh, boundary breaking when you allow yourself to let go of everything that you've built. But let's try and relate a little bit more to you. How did that picture look before you left, before you went into a burnout?
Yeah. So I was very young. Like now I'm 44, so I have quite some life experience by now. But then I was quite young, and I remember that when I wanted to study, I'm going to start at the beginning. I wanted to study. I wanted to become a graphic designer. So then I was like um 19 or 20. What choice? What study do you do? I wanted to become a graphic designer or study psychology. And I remember that I wasn't fully received in that by my very loving parents. I really, really love them. They're amazing. But they couldn't understand that I wanted to do this kind of things. So I took a path of trying to kind of please them, choose a study that will please them. But didn't really work out, because like biology, I studied biology, and yeah, it didn't really work out because it was something I liked, and I thought like this is something like it's a high level, and but yeah, it didn't work out. So and then I studied film science, and that was really something that resonated with me. I made my own choice in that. Yeah, I'm going to start again with telling this story. You can cut this out. I think it's much too long. I'm going to start in a different way. Yeah, I'm going to start in a different way. So who I was before that, I was somebody that just did what everybody is doing a study, getting a job. And I had quite a lucky job, because I was working at the Dutch television AVRO, Dutch broadcast AVRO, and I had quite a creative job. But still, I had something in my mind that, so I was an editor, a web editor, and I had something in my mind that I have to climb up the ladder. So I have to become a project manager. And so I was always a bit on projects, because this is also something I like. But the work of a project manager is not really something that I am made for in a company. So after the AVRO, I was working at different places, and in the end at another place, and there I became finally this project manager officially. And it was such an intense time, because the whole company was falling apart, and there was a big reorganization, and I was really like excited about to make my project happen, building a new website for the reorganization while this company was falling apart. People were becoming sick, and I didn't even know that I was becoming so stressed that I felt more and more when I was, and this is the most important part, I think, for people to listen to, like when I was driving on my bike in Amsterdam to my job, I felt more and more resentment, like my whole body started to block. And there came a moment that I had nearly finished the project, and I had a meeting with the leaders of the company, and I presented, and they said like, this is not good, and and I was like, no, this is really good, this is really good. And they just, I don't know, I had this feeling like something else is going on here. They're trying to make me miserable or something like that, because this whole company was falling apart, and I think on purpose. So there was a lot going on there. And I walked out that meeting and I cried and I said, I can't. I'm walking away now. I called a friend. I shared with her how I felt, and she said, you have to call and say that you are ill, that you cannot work, that you are burned out. And I was. So yeah, in the end, it was, I think, about not knowing who I am, in essence. And I think that that's the big problem in the world, that we don't know who we truly are. We just follow that path, and that creates so much pressure on our nervous system, creates stress, headaches, burnouts, depressions, relationship problems, suicides even, I think. It's a big problem, and I'm happy that I kind of received grace, or how do you want to call it. I was saved from that life. And if I can add something, I believe that everything that's happening in the world, it's a saving of our souls, of our light. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't listen.
Yeah, I always say, well, if you don't want to listen to other people who've been before you, your body will teach you.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful.
You cannot
That's really
engage the
powerful.
body. You cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Of course. Yeah.
How do you came to this conclusion? Because it's quite powerful, what you say, beyond what people maybe can imagine.
Well, I've been a teacher since 2014, but also I became more and more conscious of people who were starting to block. And I realized that when you have conversations, tell why things are good for you. When people are getting into a block, then the mind really doesn't want to listen. It will just find 100,000 reasons why not to change. And I realized that also in my private relationships, that I start to recognize this kind of pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And once I just learned, like, oh, wait a minute, some people are in burnout, and then they start to listen. So then I saw, okay, oh, the body is the teacher. And I have been through a burnout.
Mm-hmm.
I had to listen to my body because it wasn't doing the things I was doing before my healing path.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It didn't want to. No way I could. I just didn't want to move. I just had to sleep, rest, and then you can only listen. You can't even have energy to watch a movie anymore or something. Just everything shuts down. So yeah, I guess through teaching and going through my own burnout, the body will teach.
Yeah.
Wow. So you said you kind of had to lose your ego. You also said I lost my
Part
soul.
of it.
Part of it, fragments of my soul. So let's go to the other part.
Yeah.
What are the tools to refine your soul? What are the tools that came on your path?
So many.
Just choose whatever you want to talk about. No problem.
Yeah, it's so many. My path is the path of many, and this is what I am supposed to do. Yeah, for me, the most powerful is Kundalini Yoga. So I want to bring that forward from all the tools that I am, when it comes to bringing all the pieces together, to come into Satnam, into our essence. There's no other practice than Kundalini Yoga. The other practices are needed as well, but when the shit hits the fan, I would say, I dare to say that your only savior is Kundalini Yoga, and I am not dogmatic, or I would never force anyone to do anything that doesn't feel aligned. Everyone has their own path and their own tools, but for me personally, this is my personal experience. For me, this is the only one, and I have many more. But Kundalini Yoga, absolutely, yeah.
And what's the difference that you say this is the go-to tool for when shit hits the fan? Why not the other tools? What's so significant about Kundalini Yoga?
It brings all the parts together. It's simple. It's the when you talk about yoga, you have the 8 limbs of yoga. It's in the practice itself. They are all incorporated. So you have the breath, you have the concentration, you have the meditation, you have moments of samadhi.
Unity. Yeah.
Yeah. You have yama niyama. How do I relate to myself, to the other? All is there. And the beauty of it is that it brings the direct experience. So you become the teacher. And I love this about Kundalini Yoga. Yes, there are teachers, but they are just teaching you how to initiate yourself into higher consciousness. It's a technology. It's really a technology. It's not just blah, blah, blah. It works. You can repeat it and it works. So yeah, I can advertise for Kundalini Yoga. No problem. And I will do always. Yeah.
My spine is shivering all the time when you're saying these powerful words. But I completely understand where you're coming from. There's many tools. You can have massage, acupuncture. You can go to psychologist, hypnotherapist, whatever. But if you want to find your own wisdom, your own teacher, and own infinite part of yourself, then Kundalini is the tool to go to.
Yeah. The only moment where I would say go to a teacher that is very safe in Kundalini Yoga is when you have a burnout, like you just at the beginning and your nervous system is like totally blown up. Like I am trauma aware. I did a training in trauma. So when you start to work with locks, that's really quite specific this, but when you start to work with breath of fire and locks and intensive breath work, intensive movements, it's really important to listen to your body because your nervous system is so sensitive. So choose your teacher wisely. And in some cases, I would say even that you have to start with grounding practices before you even go to the real core of Kundalini Yoga. Otherwise, if your nervous system is not blown up, not burned out, it helps your nervous system. It will make your nervous system very strong, but you must be aware of what is my starting point. So yeah, this is really something important to mention, I think. Yeah.
And how did you find your teacher? And how would you advise people to find their teacher?
Oh, I love this question. Just listen to what feels like empowering for you. Like if it feels really empowering, if you feel at peace, if you feel blissful, if you feel joyful, if you feel self-confident after the practice. So all this kind of words, if you experience all these kind of things by just being in the presence of the teacher, but this is my personal opinion, choose a teacher that inspires you to find your own teacher. Don't choose a teacher that tries to tell you who you are.
You're looking at me. The people who don't watch our podcast but listening to the podcast, I was heavily nodding. I very much agree with that. To me, you're right. It's not about any status of a teacher. Don't look for that. Look for the teacher that opens you up. It invites you to look deep down into yourself and guides you into that process and to find yourself. And I would say that teacher would be even happy if you would one time say, I found my own teacher inside of me. Thank you so much. Goodbye. That's the kind of teacher I listen to. But I would advise that because the wisdom is inside of you and nobody can tell you better than your inner wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, I love also that you bring in this this aspect of like the famous teachers. Like famous doesn't mean anything. It just means that this person is meant to be famous and attracts a lot of people with a certain need that he can fulfill. So it's really about. I also think that the right teacher for you is maybe a teacher that has kind of same frequency, same kind of path that he walked that you might have to walk, but this is something you cannot know. But often when we look back, like, there are similarities. So it's like your role model for a moment, but never treat your teacher like a role model. Don't put the teacher on a pedestal. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's fast forward. You did some yoga. I guess it's during your healing part when you had to come out of your burnout, and you discovered Kundalini Yoga. And you said it was very important to have that tool to make the decision, right? To go, to leave the Netherlands.
Yeah. So can you ask the question again? So I really
So the
understand.
question is like, how fundamental was the practice for you to help you make the decision to go?
Yeah, I think that it gave me the strength to find the courage in myself. Yeah. 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 Because on a practical level, we all desire to feel clarity in ourselves, to make choices, that you feel in your whole system that you can ask the question, is this the right decision for me or not? And that you feel this clarity in your whole being. And when you say, actually, I have never reflected on it like this, but I think that this practice gave me this fundament, indeed, this base where I could explore what is truly my truth and what decisions are truly aligned with my truth. And it's like a whole, like a hammock that you can just rest in. And I mean, the practice is sometimes very intense, but the consciousness that you activate is like a hammock that you can like, here I feel like, I feel myself, I feel safe, I feel clear, and confident. Okay, now I know what I have to do. Yeah.
And you know you can handle it too, right?
Yeah.
That consciousness, I mean, do you feel that too? When I'm in that consciousness, I know I can handle any situation that comes to me.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I believe that we all have our own words for the experience, and I think my words are different, but I love that it gives you this confidence. This I can do it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things to really strengthen your energy is to do it with discipline or do it every day. But you decided to uproot yourself and go into this nice caravan or nice trailer or whatever you bought, right?
Camper. Yeah.
Camper, a nice camper. How challenging was that for you to keep the practice up while traveling through Europe? I know you ended up in Cyprus, but how did you build up the practice?
I just did it. It was like such a force. You just do it. Also when you do the training for a teacher, you have to do 40 days of sadhana. So and sometimes it's cold in the morning, and but we had the heating. My partner was also joining me, so I was lucky with that. But we had quite a big camper, so I just did it wherever I could. I had also beautiful experiences, like we were standing in Portugal. Close to Sintra on a beautiful beach, and then we went early morning, like the alarm clock 4:30, and then bam, you go to the beach, you do your chanting on a beach that is just for you, and so you see the light coming up, and sometimes it was in a very tight camper, and then just moving through the space, dependent on what exercise you do. And and it was always beautiful because there was so much light coming out of us. We were just flying after that, So and sometimes it was difficult to get up so early in the morning. So many beaches in the camper.
So I hear some advice. Make sure your partner is cooperating with you with your morning practice. I hear it's not that bad idea to find a nice environment to do the yoga. It's always stimulating if you know you have this beautiful beach waiting for you, right? And a sunrise or that's very stimulating.
But I was also doing it already in the Netherlands, like my own practice. It was just the light that came out of the practice. It's just like a good addiction. It's like when you feel good after something and then you skip a day and then you feel heavy again and you drag yourself through the day and you feel, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do it again because I need this light. Yeah.
Okay, let's I mean, I understand you completely. So, but let's think of our dear listener. What the heck do you mean with light? What does that do to your day?
Yeah. So I take light literally. I mean, light has two meanings. It has the meaning of dark and light. We put a lamp on, there's light. The sun comes up, there's light. The sun disappears, there's dark. So that's one definition of light, and there's the other definition of light, and that is the weight. So you can take a very heavy suitcase, 30 kilo, that's heavy. Or you can take nothing with you, that's light, you are free. So when we talk about light, I am talking about this light of the lamp or the sun. But on the human level, on the body level, because it seems that our conversation is also around that, is that you feel lighter in your body. It's like suddenly the pain in like my students also experience that they come to the lesson, suddenly their back pain is over, it's like, or the headache is gone, and also on a mental and emotional level, it has an effect. We can feel heavy, like depressed, you are mentating, so your thoughts are like just coming, you cannot stop, you are worried, stressed. So when the light thoughts are more peaceful, they don't run through your head, they just rest in a hammock. They just chill, so it has the light you can also feel in your body, in your emotions and your mental states. So I felt that as well. But because I'm also connected to feeling energies, and I'm sure that many listeners of you also, because there are many people on earth that are very high sensitive. So it's working on all the levels.
And during your yoga, you start to become, you start to understand these fragments of yourself, right? Your soul, as you said. So can you describe the fragments that you constantly pull to you? Oh, this is me. Like, what did you discover about your soul?
I love this question. I always had this is very personal, but I'm gonna share it because I know that listeners like personal, vulnerable things, and it's good for me as well. So I had this vision that it was still in Netherlands, like I was walking through the world, and there was coming light of my hands, and that felt so powerful. Am I still there?
So, can you repeat that? You were walking. Go back to the part that you were walking on the beach. Or just answer the question. Just answer the question again because you stopped. Yeah.
Okay. So, can you repeat the question
So
then?
the question is, what are the parts of you that you discovered of your soul again in this process?
Yeah. There was one powerful vision that I received when I was still living in the Netherlands during Kundalini Yoga class. that was a vision that I was walking through the world, and I was just walking through the world, and there was coming light out of my hands and light of my being. And it was a message for me. And later I understood that I think it's a message for all of us. But then I was thinking, oh, it's for me. My ego was like, oh yeah. But I think that, yeah, it's the message that we can, our soul is this light, and we can walk through the world and be that source of light to inspire other people to remember also that they are a source of light. And that was such a powerful message, because you ask about parts of my soul, because I met also many parts of my personality that were very dark and traumatic. But yeah, my soul was all about light, about God, about abundance, and I am safe. I am taken care of. It's always good that there's just pure love.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that all that love, all that light brought you all the way to Portugal. Why Portugal?
Yeah, I ask myself that question as well, to be honest.
But how did you make the decision then?
Yeah, I made the decision because I was living on a Greek island where I was in communion with the energy there. There were many temples, the sea, the water element, the island, the land. There, when you walked over the land in the mountains, you could just pick the little crystals out of the path. So very, very special island. But from the social aspect, I didn't have a community with who I could share all this stuff about consciousness and light, and like, so I felt quite lonely there. And then I decided when my relationship ended, that it's time for me to leave that place and go to a place where there is a big international community of people that are also seekers of coming home. And that is south of Portugal, where many, many people come that are on this search to themselves. Yeah. So that's from the human perspective, from the crisis perspective that pushes us always forward if we listen. Yeah.
But you say you listen. How do you know, or from where in your body or whatever, how do you know that's the way?
I think that everybody has to find their way. I can only share how it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have our own way of finding our way of listening. So for me, it's often when the crisis is so deep, that I have no other choice than to make that choice. It's like, it's also one of the sutras in Kundalini Yoga: when the pressure is on, get going, something like that.
Act and the pressure will be off.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so it's true. So now I started to listen to that. Like, okay, when there's pressure, there's something pushing me to go in a direction, because this is also stress. If we reject that pressure, then we might end up in a burnout. But it's a pressure often to let go. So it's a different pressure than to become somebody. You want to become somebody out of pressure, and it gives you stress. It's a different kind of pressure. But this pressure, like, it just keeps on haunting me. This message, this voice, this, like, you have to do this, or this image, or this dream. It's just like, you can't push it away. It's like this bowl full of air, and you want to push it beneath the water, and just keeps on popping up. And yeah, when that happens, something wants to tell you something. You can better listen. Yeah.
And when do you listen in your day? Do you listen
Yeah.
all the time?
Yeah, I try to listen as much as possible. So I try to create moments of listening. Yeah. So take a break and listen to the breath. Nothing else, and no technique also. Like, just also not trying to do ocean breath or any breath. You're just sitting and being. You can feel that in space right now as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sometimes more easier than we think. It's just to realize that you can just sit down and just be at that moment instead of just and getting out of the head helps, right? Getting into the breath helps very much.
Yeah, absolutely. The
And you
breath.
talk. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no.
Um, you mentioned the word dream a few times.
Hmm.
Can you tell us your dream?
I have many dreams, but my highest dream is that we all, as a humanity, understand, and we are so much more than all the things that are going on in our heads, in our daily life. We have to take all these things very seriously, but there's a higher guidance that guides us, and we are coming from a source that is beyond our comprehension of the mind. And my dream, my biggest dream, is the golden age for humanity. That's my biggest dream. But maybe you are asking for more like human level dreams. But this is so, in all that I do, in all my projects, everything, this is my biggest dream, raising the consciousness. And I don't have to do anything for this besides listen and just playing my part in it. I mean, we do it together. So I invite the listeners to step on the boat.
That's why I invited you on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Because
Yeah.
you were right. I saw your light.
Mm.
I look at a lot of Instagram accounts, but that light was undeniable. So I just had to follow my call because I don't really know you so long, do I? I mean, I think we talked 2 times before, right? Yeah, 2 or 3 times. So
Yeah.
yeah, so listening, I also do that. I usually do that after sadhana. It's most clear, but it also very much helps to just plan in some time after lunch just to sit and
Mhm.
not going back to work directly, just to allow your brain to just go in a more passive state and just digest your food and your thoughts and listen a bit. So yeah.
Beautiful. You are mentioning a feminine quality as a man.
I actually have, well, let's just say I have this quality more than the male quality actually in my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and so now you're in Portugal.
Yes.
What has, what part of are you just said it's happening already. The consciousness is raising. That's why people are listening to this podcast, right?
Yeah.
I had no clue. I just felt stories had to be heard, and now we are sitting here. So and people find us. So what is life asking you in this grand play of raising consciousness?
My life is not asking much more than allowing to be guided by life itself,
Very
and the
deep.
rest comes from it. Whenever I stop listening, I stop allowing to be guided, this is really a feminine quality, to allowing to be guided, but there's also a masculine quality, because there's the choice of, I allow to be guided, I allow to listen, I'm gonna listen. So that's the masculine, and then you have to flow with the feminine. So that's what life is asking me to be part of it. And all the people that I guide one-on-one as well, or in group, it's like always like, understand and love the traumatic experiences of your life, and understand that this voice that is guiding you now to speak with me is a voice to direct you to yourself. And that voice, this is something beyond comprehension. Like, yeah. And we have all our own inner voice. So that's it. It's and there, if you are meant to be famous, you will be famous. If you are meant to be humble and help all your friends and family around with your amazing cakes that you make, then that's your purpose. You know, it doesn't matter what gives you joy, what gives you pleasure. That's in the end. Yeah, there's often a healing path in front of that. So I think that also this higher consciousness asks us also globally to look into our pain, into our sadness, into our anger, into our frustration, and understand that it's coming from a system that is in us, and that is not the true us. So there's always a path of healing, and that it can be very intense. Yeah. And then it's good to have a practice like Kundalini Yoga to make it lighter. Yeah.
It reminds me of a previous guest in the podcast, Guru Deva, saying, deep down in that pain or that trauma, that once you find a solution, that's the crack of light.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you will find your light, this new light for living life in a more lighter way.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't look into it, you will not find your crack of light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. There's also something about the light, the central sun. In many teachings, ancient teachings, it is said that the central sun is where our source actually is. So it's like the nothing, and it's dark. There's nothing, and everything comes from there. So according to this darkness, we are afraid of the dark, but when you step into the dark, you start to see.
When you say this to me, it's always to recognize the divine in everything, or else you will not see the divine itself. And I always relate that to, if you see all the beautiful fruits, they all come from dirt. It all comes from the land. And I lived for a long time in Ukraine. It had the black soil, and this black soil was the land, but it gave so many crops. And that's kind of what we have to see. Anything we want to harvest from life, we need to start with the darkness, the dirt, and see the soil, its fertility in the nothingness. Only from nothingness things can come. And so yeah, so very wise. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, the dark earth, beautiful.
We're coming to an end. Because it's already an hour. The listener has. I mean, your stories are very energetic. It was really light to flow with you through your story. I think we could talk a lot more.
Thank you so much.
But if you have any, take your last few moments to, if you want to inspire, speak to anybody that's listening. What would you say to them?
I would say always listen to your heart, always. In the end, it's always right. And you can reject it and try to push it away, but it will not leave you alone. So if there is a voice now in your heart you then listen to it, take it serious, and take some time to wonder and ask yourself, maybe this voice is right. And if that voice is right, what does it mean for my life if I follow that? And then connect to that vision, to that feeling, and see what happens. That's it.
Wahe Guru.
Waheguru.
Spoken like a true counselor or coach. I feel how deeply connected you are with the spirit, and in the now. Thank you for being here. To the listeners, if you have been inspired, uh, feel free to check our website. Feel free to check the website of Agnieszka. We'll drop the link into the podcast description. Or get yourself that trial subscription on our membership. We have wonderful lessons, and you can experience some of our lessons online anywhere you want, and find your own light. And thank you for your precious time and listening to us. And I will happily see you the next time, or with a new story, with a new experience and inspiration. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.